What's up, guys? I'm Noah. You're watching The Productive Producer. Today's video is all about making your drops feel a little bit more interesting. Maybe you're just sort of stuck in one general area of the drop and you can't really expand. You don't know what to do. We're going to go through a couple of different ways to mitigate that. So I'm going to play a little bit of my new song in the back. It's coming out real soon on March 10th. So take a listen. You got what I want. All right, so that was the full drop. So we'll go through a couple of different techniques I used in this drop to turn it from just this first initial part into this entire section for the drop. So the first thing is writing structure. When we make music, we want to balance the familiar with the new, because if we had one repeating loop the whole time, it would get boring. But if we had different sections every time, then it would get chaotic and it would be hard to follow. So we want to have that return to the familiar while moving into something new, maybe adding a new element. So you can see right here, I have this section right here, which sounds like this. And then we move into the, and this section repeats right here. And we move over here where it shifts down an octave. With a little bit of pitch flares in there. And then we move down further over here and then back up again. So what that's doing is we are taking that same familiar pattern that we have from the first section, adding something new to it here, and then shifting it up and down octaves as we move along. So it still has that familiarity to it, but it moves forward in a way that progresses into something else. So you could think of that as the A section right here. This is the B section right here. And this is the C section because they're all different. It's A, B, and C. The second element is the transition element. You may have noticed at the end of this measure, we have some other instruments that come in, like this brass element right here. And this guy right here. And maybe like these snares right here. Those all lend themselves to transitioning into the next section. If we had this just loop, this same loop happen two times in a row and then it changes, it doesn't really feel like it's moving anywhere. So that's what the idea is behind the transitions, and you can see how they work with pushing the section into the back end of the first phrase, the A section, into the B section. So let's take a listen. We have that vocal down there too that helps us out. Bitches in the back. That helps ease the transition into the next section and signals to the listener that something new is coming, right? So when you're listening to music, you want to have some sort of cue that something's about to happen, but you don't want it to be given away. You want to know what's happening, right? I like to think of this like a movie, right? You like to be signaled that something's about to happen, but if you know what's going to happen before it happens, then it's no fun, right? So that's the idea with the transitions, and there could be a lot of things. You could use these. It could be in your writing. It could be in the effects. Sometimes you could use a sweep to indicate a transition, a riser, anything like that. Those transitions help make your drop a little bit more interesting and move it along and keep the pacing up. The last element we're going to go over is the filler. And, filler gets a bad name because you could think of filler as just stuff that you just stuff in there that doesn't have any substance and is just to fill time, right? Well, in this sense, we are using filler to be more of a supporting piece to the lead element, right? So like you could think of it, let's use the movie example again. Let's say you have your lead character and your supporting character in a public place like a mall or something. If they're there and you want the scene to feel alive, you can't just have just them there. It feels like the mall is empty and doesn't really feel real, right? So you hire extras, a bunch of people in the background to fill out the space and make it feel more alive. And that's what these filler elements do. So we could take a look at some of these filler elements down here. We have like this Christmas sleigh bell type thing. We have our hi-hats right here, these closed hats. These claps right here. And then up here we have this synth. And then this synth right here. All of those things support the lead elements, the main elements of the song, right? So if we listen, you can hear when we take those away, it sort of just like, oh, it feels like, well, that doesn't feel right. And then right over here. And that's about it. I mean, there's a lot of other things you could do to fill out your drops and to make them more interesting. You could maybe chop up the pattern, maybe resample it to audio. You could resample the lead synth to audio. You could add in, maybe try a new synth, a new pattern. You do lots of things, but these are some of the mainstays that work for me pretty much every song. So hope you guys liked the video. And please make sure to like the video if you enjoyed it, if you learned something. Feel free to ask a question down there in the comments. I'll be happy to answer as many as I possibly can. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next week.